A single dad stops to help a stranger. What she offers changes everything. Welcome to the channel, where every story takes you somewhere unexpected. Before we dive into today's emotional journey, let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing our global family grow with every episode. And if you enjoy powerful stories filled with heart, grit, and second chances, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell, because tomorrow we're dropping another unforgettable chapter you won't want to miss. Now, settle in. This one's going to stay with you. Cameron Hayes had seen a lot of things in his 35 years, but nothing quite like this. The Texas sun was brutal that afternoon, burning through the hazy sky as he rolled down a quiet highway, toolbox rattling in the back of his old Dodge. He was heading home after another long day at the garage, his shirt damp with sweat, hands still streaked with grease, and his mind preoccupied with the stack of bills waiting on the kitchen table. But as he crested a hill just outside town, something caught his eye. There, on the side of the road, sat a 1967 Mustang Fastback, a classic midnight blue gleaming despite the steam rising from beneath its open hood. It was the kind of car you didn't just pass by. Cameron slowed instinctively, pulling in behind it and stepping out into the heat. And that's when he saw her. She stood beside the car with her arms crossed and a phone in one hand, frustration written across her face. She looked like she belonged, on the cover of a Forbes magazine, not stranded on a dusty Texas road. Silk blouse, tailored pants, expensive sunglasses, every detail screamed high society. But there was something else about her, something more than just the look. The way she studied the engine, not in helpless panic but with sharp focus, told Cameron this woman was no stranger to control. "You need a hand?" he asked, keeping his tone casual. She glanced up, pulling off her sunglasses, revealing cool gray eyes that held more than a hint of calculation. "Are you a mechanic?" "Something like that," he replied, kneeling beside the car. "What happened?" "It started sputtering a few miles back," she said, brushing a loose strand of chestnut hair from her cheek. "Then it just died." Cameron popped the hood further and took a look. The engine was immaculate, well cared for. He ran through the usual checks and within minutes spotted the issue, a loose fuel line. "You got lucky," he said, tightening the connection. "Could have left you stranded in the middle of nowhere." She muttered something under her breath. Maybe a joke, maybe not. "Name's Cameron," he said after a pause. She looked at him for a moment, then extended her hand. "Madeline Pierce, just passing through." Cameron shook her hand. It was firm, confident, not the handshake of someone used to being ignored. When he asked her to try the engine again, the Mustang purred back to life, smooth and strong. She stepped out, visibly relieved. "Well, I guess I owe you one." But when she offered money, Cameron waved it off. 10-minute fix, he said. No charge. And as she drove away, that Mustang kicking up dust, Cameron stood on the shoulder of the road, watching her disappear into the horizon. Something told him this wasn't just another roadside stop. And Madeline Pierce? She wasn't just passing through. She was about to change everything. Cameron didn't think much would come from helping a stranger on the side of the road, until 2 days later, his world shifted. The call came mid-morning while he was under the hood of a rusted-out Ford in his small-town shop. His hands were dirty, sweat dripping from his brow, and his 9-year-old son Lucas was in the office doing homework on a second-hand laptop. When the shop phone rang, Cameron almost let it go to voicemail, but something told him to pick up. "This is Cameron," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Mr. Hayes," came a polished voice, smooth and confident. "My name is Brian Latner, Executive Coordinator for Pierce Performance Motors. We'd like to schedule an interview." Cameron blinked. "You've got the wrong guy." "I don't believe we do," Brian replied, calm and sure. "Your work came highly recommended. Our CEO saw firsthand what you're capable of. We're offering you a chance to lead our new classic restoration division in Los Angeles." Cameron's chest tightened. His eyes flicked to Lucas, who was sitting cross-legged, sketching a car on lined paper. "Who gave you my name?" he asked, though deep down he already knew. A pause. Then, Madeline Pierce. The name hit him like a jolt. He hadn't seen her since that Mustang roared back to life and she vanished into the dust. She said what you did for her was more than just a fix. She believes you deserve a bigger stage. Cameron barely slept that night. By morning, he was on a flight. His first in years, headed west to the kind of place that felt light years away from his Texas roots. The Pierce Performance Motors building sat like a fortress of glass and steel, nestled in the heart of LA clean floors, suits, lanyards, no oil stains in sight. He almost turned around. But when Madeline walked into the conference room, dressed, to navy blazer and heels that echoed against marble tile, he stayed seated. "Cameron," she said smoothly, as if their last meeting had happened 5 minutes ago. "Welcome." He stood slowly, cautious. "So, this is your company?" She nodded. "One of them." "And this job?" he asked. "Is this some kind of charity?" Her gaze sharpened. "No, it's recognition. You have skill, you have vision, and I don't hand those kinds of opportunities to just anyone." Still, doubt gnawed at him. "Why, me?" Madeline's voice softened. "Because you're not just a mechanic. You see the heart of a car, not just its bolts and wires. That's rare." He should have walked away. It was too much, too fast. But when she slid the offer across the table, with numbers that would give his son a real future, Cameron hesitated, and that hesitation was enough. "Just think about it," she said, standing to leave. "You've spent your life fixing other people's wreckage. Maybe it's time you built something of your own." As the door closed behind her, Cameron sat in silence, staring at the contract. Everything was about to change, and this time, it would be his choice. Cameron Hayes took the job. He signed the contract the next morning, flew back to Texas to pack up his life, and within a week he and Lucas were living in a small 2-bedroom apartment just outside Los Angeles. The shop was sleek, the crew experienced, and the cars, classic muscle luxury restorations, were every mechanic's dream. But dreams didn't come without tension. From day one, Cameron felt the eyes on him. Whispers in the hallway. Sideways. Glances in the garage. He wasn't just the new guy. He was the outsider who'd jumped the line. And worse, everyone knew who'd put him there. Madeline Pierce. It didn't help that she made no effort to hide it. She visited the shop regularly, always composed, always sharp, and every time she appeared, it only confirmed what people were already saying. That Cameron wasn't there because of talent, but because of her. No one said it out loud, but he heard it in their silence, especially from Trevor Voss, the lead technician. Mid-40s, former race team mechanic, and a man who clearly didn't like being outranked by someone without a resume full of racing credentials. "You're Madeline's charity case," he muttered one afternoon, as they stood under the hood of a '69 Charger. "Let's just hope you can keep up." Cameron didn't bite. He'd been underestimated his whole life. He wasn't about to start proving people wrong with words. He'd do it with his work. But then the storm hit. It started with a photo, him and Madeline laughing outside the garage, caught by a tabloid camera. By noon, it was on gossip blogs with headlines like, "Mechanic or Muse, Madeline Pierce's. Mysterious new hire raises eyebrows." And just like that, the whispers became louder. Executives questioned the optics. Mechanics questioned his leadership. Cameron kept his head down, focused on the cars, on Lucas, on staying grounded. But it got worse. 1 week later, he got a call from Lucas's school, principal's office. "Mr. Hayes," the voice said, "there's been an issue with your custody status." Cameron's blood ran cold. He arrived to find Lucas sitting in a too big chair, nervous and confused. And standing next to him, wearing a smug smile and a $1,000 suit, was a man Cameron had never met, but recognized immediately: Ethan Langford, Madeline's ex-husband, media tycoon, billionaire bully, and clearly not happy with being replaced. "Just checking in on the welfare of the child," Ethan said smoothly. "Given the chaos surrounding his father's new career." "You filed a petition against me?" Cameron snapped. Ethan smiled wider. It's not personal, Cameron. It's about stability. But Cameron knew better. This wasn't about Lucas. It was about control, and for Ethan Langford, destroying Madeline's life wasn't enough, not if Cameron was still standing beside her. That night, Cameron sat in silence, watching his son sleep. The walls were closing in. His past was being used against him, and all of it, every threat, every headline, every legal ambush, was leading to one goal: make him walk away. But Cameron Hayes had walked through fire before, and he wasn't done fighting. Cameron didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dark, replaying Ethan Langford's smug words over and over in his mind. The man had the power, the money, the media, and now he was using Cameron's son as a pawn. All to prove one thing, that Madeline Pierce still belonged to him, in business, in the headlines, and in the power structure he refused to let go. But Cameron wasn't the type to fold under pressure. The next morning, he walked straight into Madeline's office. No appointment, no hesitation. She looked up, already tense. "He came after my son," Cameron said, his voice tight. "Filed a custody petition. Tried to drag up my record from when I was 19. Madeline's face hardened. "I told you. Ethan doesn't lose quietly." "This isn't business anymore," Cameron growled. "This is war." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then Madeline rose from her chair, her expression colder than he'd ever seen. "Then let's fight like it." They got to work. Madeline pulled together her legal team. Cameron reached out to an old friend from his past, a former Marine who now specialized in family law. They began building their case. Every angle, every detail. They weren't just defending a custody claim. They were going to flip the narrative. But it wasn't enough. They needed leverage. Real, hard leverage. And that's when Madeline did something Cameron didn't expect. She handed him a small black USB drive. He stared at it. "What's this?" Her voice was calm. "Ethan's dirty laundry." "How the hell did you get this?" She met his eyes without flinching. "You're not the only one who knows how to get their hands dirty, Hayes." The drive contained proof: offshore accounts, fake shell companies, and fraudulent business transfers. Enough to ruin Ethan Langford's empire. Cameron didn't ask for more. He didn't need details. All he knew was what came next. The following morning, he stormed through the front doors of Langford Global, past security, and straight into Ethan's private office. The billionaire barely looked up. "Well, if it isn't the mechanic with a hero complex." Cameron dropped the USB on the desk. "Call off the petition." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Or what?" "Or every major news outlet in this country gets a copy of that drive, and the SEC will be knocking before lunch." "For the first time, Ethan's face faltered. "You're bluffing," Cameron leaned in. "Try me." The air shifted, the room went quiet. Then Ethan picked up the phone and made the call. "Withdraw the petition," he told his lawyer. "Immediately." Cameron turned and walked out. No smile, no victory dance. He wasn't in this for revenge. He was in it for Lucas and Madeline. Later, that night, he stood outside her penthouse, exhausted but standing tall. "It's done," he told her. Madeline opened the door, and for the first time since their world turned upside down, she didn't look guarded. She looked relieved. Cameron stepped inside, and this time they weren't strategizing, they were breathing together. It had taken weeks of battles, late-night strategy sessions, and one ruthless billionaire takedown. But now, for the first time, in what felt like forever, Cameron Hayes could finally breathe. Ethan Langford was out of the picture. The custody threat was gone. Lucas was safe. And Madeline? She was still standing, untouched, unshaken, and somehow even stronger than before. But what came next wasn't a question of survival anymore. It was about what they could build. Cameron stood inside the Pierce Performance, Motors Restoration Bay, wiping down the same 1967 Mustang Fastback that had brought Madeline into his life. Its paint gleamed under the shop lights. Its engine purred like a heartbeat. It was more than a car now. It was a symbol of everything they had fought through. Behind him, Footsteps echoed against the polished concrete floor. "You keep looking at that car like it's got all the answers," Madeline's voice teased, warm and soft. He turned to see her leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, a rare smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Maybe it does," he said, grinning. She walked toward him, slow and steady, like she belonged there. "Because she did. Or maybe you've just gotten used to having something beautiful in your life." Cameron's smirk deepened. "Oh, I have." There was silence for a moment, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of quiet that comes after a storm, the kind that feels earned. They had both been burned before. Both carried scars, but now they had something more powerful than pain. Trust. That evening, Cameron picked up Lucas from school. The boy bounded out of the building and leapt into the truck, backpack swinging. "Dad, you'll never guess what happened. Career day." Cameron smiled. "Oh yeah? What did you tell them?" Lucas buckled in and said proudly, "I told them my dad builds the coolest cars in the world, and that he works for a boss lady who's kind of like a superhero." Cameron laughed. "Oh really?" Lucas nodded. "But I told them she's not your boss all the time. Sometimes you tell her what to do." Cameron shook his head, amused. "You're lucky she wasn't there to hear that." Lucas grinned. "She probably already knows." Later that night, Madeline drove them out to her favorite place, a quiet overlook just outside the city, where the stars stretched out over the hills like diamonds on black velvet. They stood side by side, staring at the night sky. "You ever think about what comes next?" she asked softly. Cameron reached for her hand. "Yeah, and for the first time it doesn't scare me." She turned to face him. "Why not?" "Because I'm not doing it alone," he said. "And because I know whatever comes next, we've already faced worse together." Madeline leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. "Then let's build something that lasts." And as the stars shimmered above and the city lights twinkled far below, Cameron Hayes knew this wasn't the end of their story. It was only the beginning. We'd love to hear from you. What part of Cameron and Madeline's journey moved you the most? Was it that first roadside encounter, the quiet strength of a father fighting for his son, or the moment they finally stood together, not just as allies but as something more? Drop a comment below and tell us what resonated with you. Have you ever taken a chance on something unexpected? Or someone? Have you ever had to fight for what truly matters? Your stories matter too. Let us know where you're watching from and what this story meant to you. Did it give you hope, bring back memories, or just remind you that even in the messiest parts of life, love, loyalty, and courage still matter? We read every comment, and your feedback helps us craft even more powerful stories. So don't be shy. Share your thoughts, your favorite scenes, or even who you'd cast as Cameron and Madeline in a movie version. And if this story touched your heart, give it a like and make sure you're subscribed, because more unforgettable journeys are on the way.